Good morning to everyone at the sound of my voice this early morning. It's now 5:58 a.m. in Gotham City, and in the land of my birth, Barbados, to whom I want to speak to, it will be 6:58 a.m. You're 1 hour ahead. But the Bible said it's time to wake from sleep, or thou sleeper, and let Christ shine in your hearts. And in the book of Romans, chapter 8, I think it is, Romans chapter 8, I think it's verse 11. It says, Romans chapter 13, and verse 11 it says, according to the Amplified Bible, besides this you know what a critical hour this is, how it is high time now for you to wake up out of your sleep, rise to reality. For salvation, final deliverance, is nearer to us now than when we first believe. Adhere to trust in and rely on Christ, the Messiah. Now, this is very telling. Now, if I take the same verse from the Amplified Bible, it said, do this, knowing that this is a critical time. It is already the hour for you to awaken from your sleep of spiritual complacency. Hear that word, complacency. For our salvation is nearer to us now than when we first believed in Christ. Now today we see there's a lot of complacency in the world. And that complacency have to do with the denial of reality, of those circumstances that surround us every hour, every moment, every day. That we have reached a time when people have forgotten about what is important. And they go for the line of least resistance, and therefore are led astray into complacency, complicity, those two words go together, and they do not see the need to remove themselves from the destructive elements that is so pervasive in society. Now, I have made many videos regarding parental guidance, which is very critical to having a viable society. It's not money, it's not material possessions, but is reliance on God and following His instruction as a grandparent of how we should raise our families. And that's a foundation key for our survival in a society in a quiet, peaceful manner. Now today we are losing a lot of our youth to drugs, gang violence, and other negative things in society, much of which can be prevented if they are shown the right perspective and the value of life. Now, where do that start? Where do it start? It starts in the home. where parents must do everything to nurture and protect their children and raise them in a godly manner. Let's take the instance of Mary and Joseph. There came on a situation which jeopardized the future of their child. Did it matter to them? Yes. Did they take the divine warning given to them to preserve the life of their child? Yes, they did. Did they see the dire circumstances that need attention? Yes, they did. Did they become complacent? No, they did not. So that according to Matthew chapter 2, verse 13 to 15, after giving a divine warning, Mary and Joseph fled to Egypt to save their child from a ruthless death at the hands of a ruthless maniac, head of state by the name of Herod, who wanted to kill every child so as to maintain his grip on power. It was all about himself. He didn't care how many mothers wept, how many families he torn apart, how many children died. It was all about himself and his hold on power. And so we see today, we have leaders are just like that. They're engaged in a campaign of willful genocide on millions of people, including children, for their own greedy desire to have power. But what should parents do? Should they go along? Or should they do everything to protect the livelihood of their families? Well, you take the example of Mary and Joseph. Now, what about Moses' mother, Jochebed? Yes, that was her name. When another ruthless dictator king, Pharaoh, decided that he was going to create a mass genocide of the children of the Israelites, did Moses' mother Jochebed go along with that decree, or did she take drastic measures to protect her young child? Yes, she took several steps. She secretly made a waterproof basket and put it in the bulrush of the Nile River, just where she knew that the same king's daughter was to come into bed. And then she had her eldest child, Miriam, to keep a watch. No, she did not put it where it would float down the river. She put it where it would be caught in the bulrush and stay there afloat. And she made sure that that basket was waterproof. Okay? So when Pharaoh's daughter came to bathe and she saw the baby crying, she took it. And what action did Jochebed set in motion? She had her eldest daughter Miriam to watch for the outcome. And then that sister, family member, took action to preserve that child by saying, I can get you a nurse for this child. And she secretly got the very maternal mother to become the nurse for this child and paid to help preserve that child's life. So you have to have a plan of action to preserve your offspring from ruthless dictators or leaders, political tyrants, when they don't care anything about you or your offspring except but themselves hold on power. So when we see we lose our children to gang violence, or our children are being groomed and indoctrinated in the schools to become queer and gay and transgender, what should parents do? They must take every step necessary to shield that child from the damaging effects that may be brought to bear by these disgusting, dishonest, ruthless political tyrants, such as immorality and all other people throughout the Caribbean and the world that have created a mass genocide of children by having them to be groomed to sexual purposes, to become queer and transgender against that ordinance. Should parents not take drastic measures to preserve their children from these people? Yes, they should. But it takes faith. And in Hebrews 11:23, Moses' mother Jochebed is mentioned as being a person of faith. See also Exodus chapter 1 to 10. Well, how did Jesus feel about children? He himself was preserved from ruthless dictator by his mother Mary and father Joseph. So what lesson did Jesus taught about the preservation of children and how precious they were? In Matthew chapter 5 verse 21 to 28, Jesus gave a stern warning. About harming children. What did he say? Let the little children come unto me and forbid them not, for such is the kingdom of the heavens. He did not say, well, chase these children away or don't pay them any mind, shove them aside. They are of no consequence. Yes, they meant a lot to him. So he gave that warning to preserve those children. Now God himself gave instructions for parents at Deuteronomy chapter 6 and verse 7, how parents could help preserve the life of their children, protect them, and give them a foundation that will ground them to grow up in the right manner. And these words that I am commanding you today must prove to be on your heart. And you must teach or inculcate. Let's stress that word inculcate. Then you sit in your house, when you lie in your bed, when you wake up, when you walk on the road, every waking moment, a parent must see to it that their children are taught, are nurtured in a correct manner that will give them stability in life and help preserve their life in a proper manner, not run wild in the streets and do anything they want to do, or not let other people groom and indoctrinate their children in a wrong way, in an immoral way. Deuteronomy 6 and 7. Again at Proverbs 22:6, parents are given a responsibility to train up their child in a way he should go, so that in later years he will not depart. I'm a fitting example of that. Although being raised by my mother and grandmother, because my father was a wild rose, drop his buds all over the place, and yet I show them respect when I see him because of what God's words say. Respect your parents. and I have not fallen to the streets. I have not become a drunkard, a drug addict, or a criminal, go out there and robbing and killing people. And God has allowed me to live 80 years. And in case anybody don't know what a score is, a decade is 10 years. A score is 20 years. You all understand that now? Okay. So a man's lifespan is now limited to 70. That's 70 years. But if God allows you to live beyond that, you give him thanks. So I have lived beyond the 70, 80 and probably a half of 84. And God has allowed me to have a measure of health and strength, a few aches and pains, but I can say for my age I'm a very healthy person. All thanks be to Jehovah God and his mercies through his Son Christ Jesus. Because only by his divine providence that we live. Now, we can go on. Psalms 127 verse 3 and 5. Parents, listen carefully. It said, children are an inheritance from God, a blessing. Do not see your children as a curse. They are a blessing. It's up to you to nurture them and cherish them and guide them when they're going wrong. You guide them and bring them back full circle to where they should be. It's not up to the governments or the schools who have now become indoctrinated facilities, not educational, but indoctrinating facilities to ruin your child. Make sure you keep a good eye on your children, and this goes so the whole family can play a part. Mothers, grandmothers, sisters, aunts, whatever, must pitch in. Okay? Now, Exodus 20:12 also shows the importance of this. You want more instructions, go to Matthew chapter 18 verse 1 to 5 and Matthew 18 verse 6 and 7, and there you'll find instructions of how to do this. Now, how much did Jesus care about children and show the importance? Matthew chapter 9 verse 28, verse 22 and 26, Jesus raised a child from death for a grieving parent. At Luke chapter 7, he raised a mother's son from death in the town of Nain. To show how important a child was, when he saw the grieving parents, Jesus, moved with pity, brought that child back to life because he saw the importance of the family and have a child, the life for grieving parents. Okay? At Luke 8:41, he raised the child of Jairus, a leader who showed faith and was grieving for his child. He said, go on home. And before he got home, his attendants met him and said, the child is alive. To show how Jesus cared for the children and show the importance of the life of a child. So parents, see that your child are supposed to live and not die because of violence, waywardness, or governmental organized genocide. You are supposed to protect your child from harm and danger. Take all the necessary steps to rear that child and shield him from running with the crowd, from gang activity. If you go to Proverbs chapter 1 and read it, You see, outlined are instructions for raising your youth and the consequences of not giving that child guidance and allowing him to run with the mob. So parents, again, you have a great responsibility, a sacred trust that God has given you is the protection and reign of your children. Don't forget that. So I bring this to you because what we've seen is we're losing a lot of our youth to the streets. And the governments do not really care, especially in Barbados. There are no programs in the schools for upward mobility. They're bringing transgender, gay, and lesbian people to teach the children in the school behind the parents' back, grooming them to become gay, lesbian, transgender, telling a boy that he can't be a girl or a girl that can't be a boy. When you born your child, what was that child? Was he male or female? Well, a child is supposed to remain in the gender that he was born, because that's God's gift to you. Whether the child is male or female. According to Psalms 127, it's a sacred trust that those children were a gift from God. And the DNA molecule determines the gender at the time of cohesion, whether male or female. And no amount of surgery is going to change that. Okay? You see, they want men to compete in women's sports against women when they become transgender. And it results in damage to the natural female because, as I said, the DNA molecule of the genes that control the sex is still in that person. But God said that a woman, the female gender, is supposed to be not a competitor with the male, but a complement for the male. So when you allow men and women's sports, you are breaking God's ordinance from being a complement to each other to be competitors against each other. And that is from the devil. Because the devil taught Eve to become a competitor with her husband and a competitor against God and his ordinance, with the resultant of bad consequences. Oh, you'll remember that. Nobody never probably taught you that, but here it is being taught. Because he put in her mindset the opposite of what God had laid down. That he told Adam, I'm going to make a complement for you. He never said, I'm going to make a competitor for you. But Satan changed that. And the woman got deceived. So mothers, you're not a competitor for your husband or your child father. You're supposed to join together and rear that child in a complementary, cohesive way. And that is one of the problems today. That because a woman can put on a male garment of a pants or pantsuit and a tie, she thinks she is a male. And she's supposed to become a competitor. I runs into a lot of that here where I live. Women look at you and just scowl and give you the dirty looks and look down on you because they're dressed up like a male. And so they lose respect for the natural male. And I just smiles because I know that's what it is. They have been deceived and led astray, that they no longer have to show respect for God and His Son and His directive, but they could go their own way, like Eve did in the Garden of Eden, and disrespect the authority of the male. And hence you have broken homes and all these type of things going on. And you have females marrying females and males marrying males. That's how people have been led astray down the wrong path. And so you have a broken society. Okay, it's okay for women to marry women and men to marry women, and a lot of these political leaders try to legislate that. That is okay, but is it okay with God? No. Is it a good thing in society? No, it is not. So we must understand that any time you go against God's directive of male and female, you're going to have a disruption in society. And it'll trickle down to the children. And you'll have a bad generation being brought up that have no morals, no boundaries, because they have been set a bad example that anything goes in society. Well, you're wondering why my head band. Well, I'll give you a little advice on that too. At night, before you go to bed, with all the tension in the world, I'll advise you all to make a nice bandeau like this, soak it in limacol or alcolado, and band your head, cool the nerves in your temple, your brain, and have a good night's rest, and allow your brain to relax and recoup. That's another health benefit I just passed a tip on to you all. Okay? This is very important to do at night, and could go a long way in calming your nerves when you wake up. Soothes headaches, earaches and stuff like that. This is what this can do for you. Okay? So I try to pass on all the tips that have kept me like this, and I hope you all take that tip also. Well, let's get back to the point of protecting the children. And I want you all to take the example of Jochebed, Moses' mother, Mary and Joseph, how they make effort and become active in preserving the life of their children, because they heeded the divine warning and saw that their children were a gift, a sacred trust from God. And that is put in the Bible not just to read, but to become examples for parents of how to raise and protect their children. And when I see a lot of the youth in my country, 10 years old, 15 years, 16 years old, are running about with weapons and in gangs, and losing their life, and being arrested in violent criminal activity, it hurts my heart. Because that should not be happening. Parents must be proactive in keeping an eye on their children and see what they're doing. And as you see your child doing things that is detrimental, it's your responsibility to take action to correct it. And set by example. Do not think that, okay, it's okay because everyone else is doing it. No, it's not okay. Because these things have a ripple effect. And then, rather than have one or two criminals, you have double that amount and triple that amount. And then you have a destructive environment in which to live, and you, the parent, have contributed to that. by not doing as the Bible said in Deuteronomy 6:7, Proverbs 22:6, Exodus 20:12, in Psalms 127 verse 3 and 5, and other passages, and you did not do as Moses' mother did, take steps to protect your child, and as Joseph and Mary did to protect their child, made every effort to protect their child from dangerous situations. So when I learn now that in Barbados, the educational system is bringing people of ill repute into the schools to indoctrinate the vulnerable youth behind the parents' back, it's appalling, it's disgusting. Gay, lesbian, and transgender indoctrination have no part in educational curriculum in any school. It's immoral, it's indecent, and I would like to use some adjectives that I don't use. But you know what I mean. And any leader that allows that is not worth to be a leader. So you lead by example. And if your leader is of low moral ebb, then everyone under her follows suit. And if the blind lead the blind, as the Bible said in the good book of Proverbs, both falls into a pit. And in the pit there's nothing but darkness. And so I see my former native land of Barbados has fallen into the dense dark pit of darkness because of poor, ineffective, worthless, careless leadership. And it's time to wake from sleep, or you sleeper, and let the daylight of wisdom shine in your heart. And remove yourself from the dense pit of darkness and come back out into the light of truth and accountability and morality. And so I leave you with this. There is none so blind as those who will not see. We're going to change that. There is none so blind as those who see but fail to see and take action because of complicity and compliance and going along just to get along. But that is not the way to go. If it ain't right, it's not right. And if it's not right, you fight to remove the wrong and make the right.